Let's talk about Iowa. You're right. There's a difference between the national polls and Iowa. And we have a September debate, and then really January, it gets down to business. And Iowa, you're still looking at Trump at 33. DeSantis is higher there at about 17%, and Scott is third. What do you think Iowa looks like? Does that hold in Iowa? Because it's going to be Iowa and New Hampshire, right?
Yeah. I think Iowa will be much tighter. I think Trump will remain the favorite. My guess is he'll win narrowly over someone. But again, if we go back, I guess 2-3 elections ago, I think maybe 3 elections ago, the winner of the Iowa caucuses was Governor Huckabee. And let's just say after he won Iowa, he did not run the table.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure Iowa's representative. What New Hampshire allows, which is why Christie is doing well, is that independents can vote in the New Hampshire primary. And so you can be an anti-Trump independent and vote in the Republican primary, especially in a situation where there's no Democratic primary to attract you. I don't think Joe Biden's going to be on the ballot even in New Hampshire, if I understand correctly.
Now, let's talk about New Hampshire. Chris Christie is doing very well.
Yep.
Can Chris hold on to New Hampshire? Is there a certain geographic, locational benefit that he has there? And again, Chris Christie, Governor Christie, I worked with him for many, many years, so pardon the informality. But is that part geography? Is that New Hampshire wanting a more moderate candidate? What is that?
I think it is New Hampshire, particularly independents who can make up 40, even 50% of the Republican primary vote, wanting moderation, wanting change. And if you go back to John McCain in 2008, I think what we saw there was they want an outsider, a fresh face, and that was certainly what McCain offered, and I believe in his own way what Chris Christie is offering with his broadsides against Donald Trump. So again, I'm not sure Christie is or likely to win New Hampshire, but it's clear he struck a responsive chord there.
Is there a chance that if he does well, let's say not win, but if he does very well in New Hampshire, that he could get some steam and this Republican Party could say, let's find a more moderate candidate who could actually win? Is there any chance that happens, that they say?
Let me give you a scenario which I think is highly unlikely but not impossible. Let's assume I'm right, I was very close, Trump ekes out a victory or loses by a point or two, but it's indecisive like it was in 2016. Then we go to New Hampshire and we have a similarly close result. Maybe Trump loses, maybe he wins. Then the pressure on Governor Glenn Youngkin of Virginia to get in the race, I think, will be very, very strong. And I think there will be a sense, as you have articulated today, that there need be an alternative candidate with an alternative message and an alternative approach.
Republicans find Youngkin appealing.
Yes, I do, and I think the grandees of the Republican Party would find him much more safe than any of the candidates now running.
Let's talk, let's switch, let's go to the other side of the aisle.
Sure.
Joe Biden, does he ultimately run? Is it too late? Is he committed? Can he step out? Will he step out? What's your gut?
Well, I think he's going to run as long as he can run. So I think in his mind and his team's mind, he is running. I think there are 3 caveats. First, our declining poll numbers. which we've seen his approval's about 40, and on the economy about 35. So he's weak there, but even or slightly ahead of Trump nationally. The second thing that I think is a wild card is David Weiss's independent counsel investigation. And I know the argument why Weiss is less than ideal special counsel, but everything I've read suggests that he is now emboldened and will look certainly with fresh eyes at Hunter Biden and I dare say Joe Biden. So that is another challenge for Joe Biden. And the third is the one we see every day on the screen. It's clear Joe Biden, at the very least, is not the same man he was 4 years ago when he was elected, and certainly not the same man he was 10, 15 years ago in the Senate. Whether the confluence of those three factors serves to lead him to stand down, I think only time will tell. But if he does, my guess is it would come late in the process so that the only likely nominee would be Kamala Harris. That would be my hypothesis.
Okay, Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
Here's my query on Kamala Harris. Why does she have such high negatives? Here she was in California. By all reports, she was a talented attorney general. She won election in California. California is not a small test lab, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that she's done anything noteworthy, positive or negative, frankly, as vice president, but she is viewed very negatively. Why?
I think a couple of reasons. First, Joe Biden, if he's viewed negatively as vice president, will be viewed negatively. Second, I think she's been given some very tough issues to handle, like the border, and that obviously has not gone well for her. And third, she has not gotten the visibility, and I dare say credibility, that we both saw Bill Clinton give to Al Gore between 1996 and 2000.
Do you think it's possible, under the scenario that Joe Biden decides not to run, why would he do it so late that you only really have one alternative, which is Kamala Harris? Someone will run against Kamala Harris, and I think she can be easily beaten in a Democratic primary.
Sure. Let me give you the logic as I see it. First, Joe Biden, by dint of his political base and support, will want it to be his vice president for a number of reasons. One, because he picked her. Two, because there are going to be some legal issues that are going to emerge vis-a-vis this investigation that will mean he'll want a sympathetic person in the White House following him. And number three is if he waits late enough and does it in early January after talking to his family over Christmas, it's tougher and tougher for anyone, even a well-financed Gavin Newsom, to get in the race and get a structure and the funds in place to challenge a sitting vice president who has the imprimatur of the black political establishment and the President of the United States and the DNC and the White House.
Do you think she would, though? Do you think, could there be a tipping point where even if he waits until January, the Democratic Party, Gavin Newsom says, I'm going anyway, and the Democratic Party says, we don't believe Harris beats Trump, and that motivation is so strong that the traditional orchestration of the Democratic primary just gets turned upside down?
It's certainly possible, not something I would think is likely, but if Biden's numbers go down and Kamala Harris's numbers go down further, and if Trump somehow manages to pull him to a narrow lead over Biden, what you're describing certainly could happen. I think it's unlikely, but it's certainly not impossible.
You think the drop dead date for Joe Biden is January? That if he's
Yeah, I do. I think anything after early January, we're looking at chaos.
Why shouldn't Biden look at the polls and say, AP poll this week said 64% of Americans say they won't elect Trump? Mm-hmm. Basically. Why doesn't Biden just look at that and say, yeah, I don't, maybe I'm falling asleep in Hawaii and maybe I miss a few words here and there, but 64% of the American people say today, I'm not electing Trump. I'm going to win. And that's that.
I think he does say that. It's a credible response, and it explains why he really doesn't have to take on too many of these issues too seriously beyond what he's doing, because ultimately he's going to make the election about Trump. And Trump has 4 felonies. He has bad positions to defend on abortion, guns, healthcare, and the like. So given all that, I think as long as Biden is able to appear, string a few sentences together, and go to a few fundraisers, that is a credible and indeed likely scenario.
The economy feels like it's getting better. Now, it can be a roller coaster and interest rates and the Fed, but it feels like it's getting better right now. If that stays relatively stable, the Biden numbers shouldn't really change. And I don't know what Trump does about that 64% who just say, no way, Donald Trump.
I think the only thing he does is what happened to Jimmy Carter, which is to make him Biden so unpalatable that people are voting against Biden for Trump, not for Trump. Now, do I think that that's easy to do? No. Would I make Biden a favorite? I would. But, I think the failure of the Biden administration to understand that a lot of people are having a tough time has been reflected in messaging to a great degree that is tone deaf.
What else do you do on the economy? Or we both worked with Bill Clinton. Is the economy stupid? What else do you do to reach those people who feel that the economy, the cost of living, has been difficult for them? I mean, I don't know that he has any levers left.
Well, I don't know if he has levers left, but he certainly could be much more empathetic than to say that the key is in climate and green energy. I mean, I'm not against either. I'm for them. But that, to me, is not the way to take hard-pressed middle-class people who have trouble paying their bills and tell them everything's going to be okay. Somehow it seems out of touch with people's day-to-day lives.
Yeah. I think Trump has the migrant issue that he could actually use to great effect, because
I agree completely.
Yeah.
And with a told you so.
Yes.
I told you this was going to happen. It's why I wanted to finish the wall and why this is so terrible what they've done.
Yes.
I agree. I agree. Listen, I don't believe Trump can get elected on his own. I think Biden can be defeated, and I think that Biden needs Trump, because I think any other credible Republican can beat Biden for the reasons we've been discussing.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I believe that migrant issue only gets worse between now and then. They are still coming. There is no intelligent response from anyone.
Correct.
And it is not just cities. You know, I think they take the narrow view. Well, it's New York City, it's San Francisco, it's Chicago, it's Boston, but it's just the city. No, that city has tentacles, and those tentacles reach that entire metropolitan region. And even more, it's emblematic of a fundamental mismanagement of government on every democratic level.
In the polling that we have seen and we have done in New York, the greatest resistance is not necessarily New York City, where there, of course, is resistance, but in suburban and exurban areas where people are scared to death that the migrants are going to come and disrupt their quality of life. And there doesn't have to be a lot of them there to have a political impact that could be profound.
Yeah. And here's the real conundrum. If you don't move migrants out of New York City, I think you doom New York City. This is unsustainable for New York City. This is going to impact the education system, the healthcare system, the overall economics. It's not just a financial situation. Just the density is too high. So you have New York City that is really in a difficult situation. And the answer would be, well, then move them around the state. New York City is not a sanctuary city. New York State is a sanctuary state. Do some equitable geographic distribution. But then your point, you're going to have a greater political impact across the state.
That is exactly right. But you make the key point. Andrew, when you were governor, there was always leadership, a direction, a willingness to compromise with the powers that be, the Republicans, whoever. Right now, I sense a state at drift facing the migrant problem, as you accurately described, combined with the problems of crime and drugs, which are, as you see every day in New York, are skyrocketing, and healthcare and education to the point where we are getting near the possibility of feeling like we're back in 1973 or 73.
Well, you know, the funny thing about leadership, Doug, is everybody wants to be a leader, but then you have to lead. And when you lead, you have to take difficult positions. And not everything, you know, for a legislator, there's an old expression, a legislator who does nothing wrong, right? Unless it's a 90-10 issue, a legislator's disposition is, why should I get involved, right? Why should I offend anyone? Make friends, not enemies. These are difficult issues. So the political instinct is to do nothing, stay away. But often the worst thing you can do is do nothing. And then the problem just gets worse. And I think that's a lesson that we're going to see play out across this country on the migrant issue, on the homeless issue, on the crime issue. And there'll be a confluence of those issues. And it will give the appearance of chaos. And that's going to be a problem for the Democrats. So I hope they realize that sooner rather than later.
Can I make one practical suggestion?
Yeah, please.
Given your history on homelessness at HUD and as a very successful governor of New York, I think it would behoove you and help the Democratic Party if, as you continue to see opportunities for the party to offer new ideas, take a leadership role, that your voice be increasingly interjected to try to help avoid Armageddon.
Yeah, well, I think, thank you, Doug, and I think about that. You know, I'm hoping that as time goes on, they understand that this is unsustainable. And they just went through Armageddon with the crime issue in the last election, right?
Right.
So
this is worse than the crime issue.
Yes, I hear you 100%. Doug Schoen, so good to hear your voice. And you're right. We've been through many battles together. We've learned a lot. But these are still fascinating times, and having your experience and wisdom and being able to talk you through with it.
I'm always happy to help, but I would tell you The most profound thing I can say, and your listeners should understand this, after 46 years of campaigns, most together, occasionally on other sides, to call the governor, the former governor, a friend, a decent man, and a forward-looking visionary is really the way I would want to end this lovely conversation.
Thank you. Thank you, my friend. Very kind of you. Thank you. I appreciate it. God bless you, Doug. I'll talk to you soon.
I look forward.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.